Hello, everyone. Welcome to Gaif Rendezvous. And today we are having our first rendezvous with Nadav Lapid, and we will have our moderator, Hugo and Marcel, who will be helping and moderating this interesting talk. Just few remarks to make it more easy for everyone who has joined us. For those who joined us through Zoom, in the bottom you will see the caption about language, and you can change it from English to Chinese because there is no Armenian in Zoom. And when you change to Chinese, you will be hearing Armenian. So just to have a bit fun. For everyone who will have any questions during the talk, you can type your question in the bottom again. There is a part for Q&A, and during the process or at the end, the last 15 minutes, your questions will be read aloud by Hugo, and Nadav will reply to them.
Yeah.
Also, some tiny information about Golden Apricot. As you know, this is already the third week that Gaif is on. And we also have some screenings in the cinemas. And today we will have two films screened in Cinema Star and two films in Kino Park. And today, finally, we are starting to show our competition program. So thank you very much. Let's start.
All right. Thank you so much, Sona. Thank you to Golden Apricots International Film Festival for still doing a film festival during these exceptional times. And also thank you, Nadav Lapid, for joining us today for this rendezvous talk. It's a pleasure. For the people that don't know you or your work, in 2019, you were the recipient of a Golden Bear at the Berlinale for your latest feature film, Synonyms. But before that, you already made a couple of exquisite feature films, one of them, The Kindergarten Teacher in 2014 and Policeman in 2011. If I'm not mistaken, you're now based in Tel Aviv at the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you're doing? How are you locked down and what kind of things are you working on?
Hi everyone in Yerevan and all over the solar system. I'm in Israel. There's a kind of they call it a breathing lockdown or something like this. You know, it's all these strange technical definitions that suddenly surround us and so yeah, it's a kind of lockdown, more flexible, less flexible. I'm actually more or less finished already my new feature film. In a way, it's there are some slight technical things to still to complete, but it's more or less there, and now we are waiting for the right moment to release it. Meaning for the moment where humanity will go back to be what it used to be.
Which is not quite apparent yet. So thank you so much for still making time to be here with us today. You've brought a couple of clips from your previous films, 4 of them actually, not only the 3 feature films I mentioned, but also your short film, Portrait of a Wedding Photographer. We're gonna see some of those clips, and through those clips we're gonna talk about your work, the kind of cinematic gestures that you make, because if I'm not mistaken, it feels like your films often could be interpreted mostly like that, a big filmic gesture rather than just a story per se. I'm super curious to just dig into it, and maybe it would be a good moment to just briefly maybe introduce the first clip, start from there, and then, start with the question and the conversations. As Sona already said, to everybody that's listening, feel free to drop in questions through Zoom. There's the Q&A button. You can always already ask questions if we see them fit to discuss during the talk. We will already do that. And otherwise, we'll just save them for the end during the Q&A section, which will be the last 15 minutes of the talk. So Nadav, is it all right if I just give you the word on what you want to show first, and then we'll pick it up from there?
Totally. So as you just nicely said, I guess my cinema is about, or my films are also mainly about cinematic gestures. I personally think that cinema is about cinematic gestures, and I think that, I mean, we call it cinematic gestures, but supposing that cinema is a way to reflect existence and universe, and that cinema, at least for me, is the best art in order to reflect human existence. So I think it's existential gestures transformed to cinema. I've picked four beginning scene, four first scenes from four movies I've done because I'm not only a big fan of first scenes, but in a way I believe that the film director should try to keep on doing first scenes or beginning scenes throughout his movie. I'll try to explain. I think there's something, when we talk about cinematic or existential gesture, the strength of a beginning scene is, of course, that you are not bound yet to narrative. You are not yet thrown to the narrative prison. I mean, when you see a woman, I don't know, walking in the middle of the street, you don't know her name, you don't know what she's working in, you don't know who she in love with, who she's making love with, who she etc. etc. You don't know anything about her. You only see the foreground, the background, the cinematic melody, the rhythm, the colors, the textures, and I think that, or I believe that in a way, as filmmakers, I mean, of course, as the film are moving forward, there are more and more narrative connections, and in a way, as spectators, we lose this capacity to look at the images, to observe the gestures. We see them as a part of a plot, not as what they are. But I believe in a way that we should try all the time to fabricate scenes that will go much beyond their narrative role, as if the film has just begun. That we should liberate our scenes from their function in the story. That the scene will go further than this is the moment where A is going to be was telling B, actually I love you, or I don't love you, or I love you but I love someone else, etc., etc., etc. That it will have its own meaning in a way that you could have imagined almost each scene taken out of the film and screened independently in a theater or in a museum. And I think the way to do it is to go to the essence of the scene. I mean, to go to the essence of the scene, but not a narrative essence, but the texture of the scene, the music of the scene. To say again the materials that compose the scene. For instance, a man, a foreign city, an empty house, death. And I said I've chosen these four words because there are a way to describe our first clip, which is the beginning of my last film, Synonyms. I apologize for the quality of the screening because as we use share screen, etc., internet, etc., 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 we're gonna see it in a kind of stroby way, and unfortunately, we are not sitting all of us. We are not sitting all of us in a huge theater of 20,000 with a screen as big as the Chinese wall, as we should sit. But we watch it on our small computers. So, but yeah. That's the state of things.
Nadav, we're gonna do that in Yerevan when your next film gets released, all right? We'll be in the biggest cinema of the city, right?
You promised, huh? Remember,
Okay.
you promised.
I do.
I'm going to measure the screen. So yeah, so this is the beginning of synonyms, and we're gonna watch the first scene or the first two scenes, but let's say the first gesture of the film. Hi.
Hey, yeah, talking about beginnings is always such an interesting and elusive beginning to a story.
Yes, I mean, in a way, you know, when I, it's not like I didn't watch it again because I know it, but when I was thinking about it, I told myself that, you know, in a way, throughout this whole movie, I mean, the whole movie is going to be only variations in a way on these scenes. I mean, throughout the whole movie, they're gonna be these foreign men, which is at the same time Superman, but totally helpless, superior and inferior to this culture that surrounds him, and this culture that friends that surrounds him is a little bit like this Osmanian deserted and ruined apartment. It's like you know, it's a sumptuous and a luxury palace, but that is already old. That already knew its glory. It now is declining, and throughout the whole movie is going to run from left to right, from right to left, knocking on closed doors. So I think that in a way the DNA, the essence of the film is already inside these scenes and this scene and this is in a way one of the characteristic or one of my one of the things I'm fetching for when I think about the beginning scene. On one hand, as I said, a kind of cinematic gesture that go beyond the story. I mean, you know, enabling or sending the main actor Tom Mercier to run naked in a huge deserted palace. It's already kind of video art in a way. I mean, you can watch it, you know, in circles like this. On the other hand, it's not a vague. It's not an arbitrary gesture. It's the heart. It's the essence of the thing. It's a DNA in a way. Everything is already written here. From here, yeah, sorry.
I was thinking about that it's not only a beginning in many ways, but also an ending. For instance, if you have a big empty house, it signifies something new, but also something that has gone to pass. And if you would take the Tom Mercier character, Yoav, who came from Israel and is moving to France to shed his Israeli identity, it's the end of one thing or an attempt to end one thing and an attempt to start something new at the same time.
Totally, and I think inside you already see in a way the rise and fall. You know, the rise and fall. I I remember I read, I think in Berlin, and film critic maybe from a cinematic review, maybe Cited Sound or something like this. He claimed, he said, you know, we cannot deny the possibility that he is dying in this bath, and the rest of the movie is only his last thoughts or last illusions while he's agonizing. So it wasn't totally my intention, but in a way, when we say that in this scene there's already the beginning and the end, so you know, the rest of the film is a little bit footnotes. Footnotes are important, but footnotes.
I want to ask something else. So you're talking about Tom Mercier running around naked in the apartment as this kind of almost video art that could exist in its own right. What strikes me always with this scene is the physicality of it. The moment that he slips on the wooden floor because he is still wet from the bathtub is a scene or a moment that just gets to me every time, because often in films you forget that this physicality exists. And you seem to bring it in all of your films often to the foreground. I mean, you already have this very disturbing, shaky cinematography at the beginning that's even more shaky and choppy through zoom, but I think everybody still gets the gesture of what you're doing there. There's this kind of chaos. And then you have the more quiet cinematography in the house, but the physicality doesn't dissipate. It is still there, but now it's more captured in the bodies.
You know, in general, I think I mean, again, people tend, when they talk about my cinema, to talk a lot about the importance of the body. But and I agree. But for me, in a way, this is what cinema is supposed to be, because in a way, if you think about the difference between cinema and literature, is that in literature we have only the words, and in cinema we have all the time, we have the words, but we have all the time the body. I mean, whatever we say is accompanied by the presence of our body. And sometimes the body is accentuating what we say, and sometimes it's a contradiction to what we say. But this is, I mean, it's the most banal and simple thing to say, but the fact, while we talk now, while you listen now to me and you move your head like this, you have shoulders, you have your torso, you have, I mean, you have a body. And this is I think, if you, the fact that we are all the time accompanied by our body, I know that for most of the people it's an evident, but I think that if you really think about it, if you really put it on screen, and if you're all the time conscious of the presence of the body, this is in a way what you get. And another thing that I wanted to say is that when I talk about cinematic gestures, I'm talking about taking something simple and pushing it in a way till the as strong or as powerfully as I'm capable. I'm not talking about, surrealistic cinema, or I don't know, and symbolistic cinema where an elephant is going out of the water or something like this. It's like a person, his belonging was stolen. He's naked in the middle of a huge French deserted apartment, and he's running from left to right, from right to left. It's in a way logical, but when you push this logical thing till the end, you get, I don't know, Also, life is logical, banal, and unbelievable at the same time. I mean, you get all the levels of existence. And of course, I mean, with his body, it's like seeing, I don't know, Greek sculpture or maybe Israeli sculpture running from side to side.
I'm wondering about, you're talking about just plain real life as well. And I think it's important for people to know that a part of this film is partially based on some of your own experiences, going from Israel to France, trying to shed one identity and trying to take on a new one through language, mostly also. Can you talk a little bit about this idea of real life connections between you and some of the characters, also in some of your other films, obviously, without focusing too much maybe on story, but could you talk about the intimacy with the material that you incorporate in your films?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I, I, I believe. I mean, I think that as I said before, for me, things like the plot, the narrative, etc. It's only a platform, and a platform in order to touch what I feel is existence at this very moment, at this particular moment, at this actual moment, and in a way, I think that human's life is a window throughout. You can observe life in general, existence in general, etc., etc., etc. I mean, in a way, I believe that if the two of us now, if we would have spent, I don't know, 3 years talking and talking and talking, maybe I could have become as intimate with your life as I'm intimate with mine. And maybe I could have used your story in order to get more or less to the same conclusions, or to the same feelings. But of course, 3 years, it's a lot. So in a way, I mean, my life is a kind of is a natural starting point, is a natural platform in order to put existence on screen. So since I'm intimate with my life, I use them, and sometimes, sometimes it's also for me a kind of solution to this question of the narrative, because I think that when you are not intimate with something, I mean, when you're not intimate enough with something, you start to find also of narrative solutions, and most of the time they are either too simplistic or too sophisticated, or both at the same time. And when you deal with your life, there is, you know, when someone asks you in the script, but why is doing like this and this and this? So the simple question is because it was like this. And there's something strong in this. It was like this. Now, I'm not saying that of course that synonyms is a perfect and totally sincere inaccurate description of my life, although it's not so far. But it's I think what it is an accurate description of what I felt. I mean, if we talk, for instance, about synonyms talk about experience period in my life that took place more or less 20 years ago, so I more or less followed certain events. I've chosen certain, of course, certain events were eliminated, certain events were changed. But what I really tried to refabricate is the melody that I had in my ears, is what you know, the rhythm, the melody, what I felt in my body, in my legs, in my head when I was at this period. Because I think that it's a way, as I said, to touch the truth of existence, or kind something deep in life. And for me, this is the aim of art.
Is that melody in your head, for instance, with synonyms, is it shaped by, for instance, the city of Paris? Because I can imagine that people often associate rhythms with different kind of cities. And synonyms is in many ways a typical and a very atypical Parisian film. So I'm wondering, in what terms does the surroundings that you have in life shape those kind of melodies?
I mean, for me, for me, Paris at this period wasn't only I don't know, the city of lights or etc., or the cliche that we used to associate to Paris. It was also, it was mainly a place to redeem myself from my past, from my Israeli past. It was a place to run away to in order to escape my past. I didn't want the period to be Israeli anymore. I decided, I felt that I heard a voice that told me, run away from Israel and save yourself. And Paris was a kind of arbitrary choice. But once I arrived there, I wanted to become as French as possible. Because I gave up my identity, I had to find a new one. So yes. So I think it's a kind of pretty unique relationship with the place. And when we're talking about it, maybe we can use the other clip that I've chosen from synonyms, if we're already in a conversation about synonyms. Which takes place about an hour later in the movie. But I think in a way it enable spectators or the spectators of this conversation to follow a little bit what we were talking about. First of all, this idea of cinematic gesture, of something that goes beyond the function of the scene in the movie, and also feeling more or less the same DNA that exists in the beginning. It's what you're gonna see. So our young man finally was saved in this apartment. And now he has new clothes, but he's still hungry for food, hungry for bread, and hungry for life. And he's wandering in the streets of Paris, looking for bread, actually, looking for something to eat. Yeah.
Love that he gets almost drunk on bread, but it's a good way also to, I think, signify that what you said, the scene sets out to do one thing. He's hungry, he's looking for bread, but then the bread turns in something else as well. It's also lust and joy and pleasure and all of those other things.
Totally. It's a little bit like, there is this animated figure of Popeye who eats spinach and become like the strongest. So the moment that he eats like the bread, he suddenly like he bursts up like this and he becomes, yeah, but it's the same, I think it's the same duality. Is like the most superior and the most inferior. Is like the beggar and the Caesar, the beggar and the prince. Is like going I mean, fetching for food like a dog, but the next moment is the rock star of the event, and yeah, everything is based on bread. So as I said, it's like pushing something, taking something simple, something normal, something true, something connected to the essence of the thing, a simple element, a piece of bread, and yeah, trying to push it as far as possible. I mean, even his dance with the girl, it's becoming kind of erotic bread dance or something like this.
Yeah.
All the erotic things that you can do with a piece of bread. Um, yeah.
This ties into a question that I had also about identity, I guess, a little bit, because you say you show one thing, but you don't show it just in a singular thing. Multiple interpretations or multiple versions of one thing can coexist within the same image or within the same scene. And I mean, this is very topical and typical for a film like Synonyms, that's about somebody who is Israeli and tries to shed that identity and become French. But the thing is that and that's my question, you don't seem to have a very didactic approach where it's either the one thing or the other, and how they combine with each other is what you try to show. I think that you never do this simple duality where it's only its original thing or its inverse. It always seems a bit more nuanced. And can you talk about this idea? Because you touch upon a lot of political issues as well. I think we're going to touch upon that as well in regards to some of your previous films, and yet it never becomes overtly political, I guess.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I think that you are totally right, because, for instance, if we talk about politics, so I think that politics exists a lot in my movies, but I don't think that I'm doing political movies at least in the common and the regular sense of this word, because I think that people in my films, they have political ideas exactly like they have clothes, or exactly like they have body, and they express their ideas exactly like they kiss or they sing or they make love or they eat, and it's an integral part of their existence, and they have a lot of ideas and they share them, but it doesn't mean that these are the ideas of the movie. I mean, the movie is not political in the sense that it want to preach, or it want to promote a certain political idea. It wants to dig into the essence of these people, and a part of their essence is the fact that they have their ideas. And also, as you said, I think in my movies there's almost always opposed sides and contradiction. But the thing is that, pretty often there is this idea of balanced movies, movie that you
Yeah.
have on one hand you have this, on the other hand you have this, and at the end you go to a kind of compromise. And I think in my films it's the total opposite. I mean, everyone is shouting it's their song in the highest volume possible, and the film is not aiming in order to show you at the end the third option, which is something somewhere in the middle. No, it becomes like a kind of endless battle, which is also an endless contest between these opponents. um, and there's no solution but to enjoy the cinematic war. Also, I think that pretty often in my movies, the bad ones, the negative ones, if we want to use this word, are more beautiful, more charming, more sexy than the good ones. So in a way, I think, I mean, you agree with the words maybe said by someone, but you prefer the lips of the other one. So when the when the mouth or the lips or the face and the words that go, or the ideas that go out of this head are suddenly divided, you don't know anymore what to choose. You don't know anymore what to follow. You're lost. And I think this is a wonderful position to watch a movie. I mean, a lost spectators.
It seems like most of your films have this tension between beauty and power as well, or like the power of beauty or something is a thing that is, I think, a very important factor in many of your films.
Totally, I think I mean, because for me, this is cinema. Because otherwise, we would have written articles in a newspaper. I mean, when you when you read an article in a newspaper, you don't care about, most of the time, about the face or the hand or the body of the person who wrote it. You are like in this dichotomy: is it right? Is it right? Is it wrong? I agree. I disagree. But cinema is, for me, the total opposite. Cinema is the total opposite. Cinema is the place where you can read the words and listen to the melody that goes out from the street and think about the cheek of the person and the way that that I don't know, the way he mumbles a certain word, and everything comes together. There's no distinction. There's no hierarchy.
I think maybe that's a good transition to either Portrait of a Wedding Photographer or maybe The Kindergarten Teacher. I'm not sure what you would prefer.
Maybe we'll go to the Portrait of a Wedding Photographer, because it's really connected to what I just said.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Actually, you call it portrait, but it's from the diary of a wedding photographer.
Oh, sorry, that's my bad. Yeah.
No, it's okay. And I followed it, but yeah, I'll just say a few words from the diary of a wedding photographer. It's a 40 minutes movie that I made after The Kindergarten Teacher. It was in Cannes in 2016, and well, I myself, when I was studying in film school, I was working as a wedding photographer. I don't know how is it in Armenia, but in Israel, wedding is still a huge cult, and people, they get married and get married and get married all the time. And for them, it's like the most important day of their life, etc., etc., etc. So I was shooting, I think, about, I don't know, 800 weddings or something like this, and became totally alcoholic in this period in order to survive. But yeah, so in a way, I must say that for me, it's maybe my most successful cinematic work, maybe from the wedding of from the diary of a wedding photographer. So let's watch the beginning. Yeah.
I really like that the sentence at the end that he says that the one with the ceilings, the wedding that he filmed with the ceilings and the floors, that's probably the most genuine capturing of life that he had ever done. Yeah, I feel that's the thing that you wanted to show, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, when you shoot whatever you don't want to shoot, and you don't want to shoot whatever you want to shoot, and then I mean, when everything is false, when the film is exactly what was supposed to be out, and whatever was supposed to be in is stayed outside. In a way, this is the way you get to the truth. And I think, and also when you watch this scene, there's even the I mean, everything is classical, but not the way it's supposed to be. For instance, this last image of a man, a woman, and a camera. So in a way, it's a little bit like a Western. The man is going to war with a gun, hugging the woman, but at the same time, it's not a Western. He doesn't have a gun. He has a lousy video camera. He's going to shoot a wedding, and both of them are cut. There's something even wrong in the image. It's like yeah. So I think I remember in I gave once a talk about the importance of mistakes. So I mean here I think you can feel the importance of mistakes, and you know, even the way we shot this scene, all this wedding at the beginning. I remember we went with my cameraman. We went to a wedding, and to a real wedding, and then he started to make like, and the idea was to imitate this, what's showing a camera when you that is not supposed to shoot. I mean, what you shoot when you're not when you don't know that you're shooting. No, it's a little bit like in Synonyms, the guy who is not looking around but looking at the sidewalks. But I mean, what you see when you don't want to see, what you shoot when you don't want to shoot. So my cameraman, he was trying to find the logic behind it, like okay, maybe we'll show here. And at a certain moment, I remember, like, I just took the camera. I mean, maybe I can show here because it would look strange, but I just took the camera and I started to move it in a kind of strange and ecstatic way from left to right and from right to left, and people of course were looking, because it was I mean, they didn't understand what I'm not shooting, the bride and the groom, but all sort of strange thing around, but this was the thing. I mean, you know, I mean, I think when you shoot what you're supposed to shoot, you lose the connection with with a certain instinct of the body. I mean, and I'm not mystical or something. I'm not mystical at all. But it's not only a matter of like doing the opposite, but it's following a certain wildness. Yes.
I think that the rest of the film goes into that in a great deal. The question of authenticity, of course. I mean, it's a film that's also very much about capturing a specific moment in time where you're feeling something very specific. Most of it, of course, has to do with love and romance, because he films weddings and newlywed couples. So there's always the question, how do you film, for instance, the like intensity of love? And a wedding photographer obviously has a strict formulaic approach. It's almost like a genre, right? It's funny that you mentioned the Western, because later in the film, you see these couples in this almost like desert-like structure with all these rooms surrounding them. And it is like a genre movie. And is that the best way to capture the feeling of being in love with each other?
Yeah, and it's a film, I think it's a film that also it's playing with all the cliche, because as you said, there is the sun and the sea, but it's not playing with the cliche in order to mock them. It's not a cynical movie. I think it's an extremely romantic movie. I mean, it's playing because with the cliche, because the cliche are at the same time terrible and beautiful. I mean, these brides and grooms, and especially these brides, they are for him, they are at the same time hell and heaven. They are his biggest disaster, but you cannot ignore the beauty of a woman who's wearing a white dress, and behind her back there is a blue sea and a yellow sun. I mean, who can deny it? And so it's like being hunted by postcards. So yeah, I think this is more or less the essence of the film.
And then there's this idea of capturing things that are fleeting, things that are only present in a short duration of the moment. I think that a lot of your films seem to be also about aging and about the difficulty of reaching back into a younger age. For instance, in the kindergarten teacher, you have the teacher that tries to capture this essence of this young boy who is a miraculous poet, but it's also just about trying to understand children and childhood and how do children perceive the world at all. I think even in Policeman, there's a little bit about that, because our protagonist, one of the protagonists, the counter-terrorist policeman, he's about to become a father and is also very aware of the fleetingness of life and youth.
Totally. I think, you know, I mean, I think I don't think that I'm saying that I'll say something new if I'll claim that cinema is the art of the moment. I mean, this is the huge power of cinema. I think its capacity to capture the moment and to dig inside the moment. And the moment is everything and nothing. You know, I think the moment is the only thing that exists. But at the same time, while we were talking, it's already it's already past. And also I think the moment is overwhelming, but also super fragile. For instance, in the kindergarten teacher, if we think about a moment of poetry, so I think because the kid there is reciting poems. There's something about, I think, you know, poetry that I mean, poetry is also a very the art of the moment, because it's not a novel, you know. I mean, you say 5 words, and these words they send you to the moon and back. So they're extremely potent, but at the same time, you know, you say them, and an iPhone is ringing, and suddenly they disappeared. I mean, they are also extremely vulnerable and fragile. And I think that in all my films there is this as if an attempt to save the moment, knowing that it's vanishing, and knowing that it's weak, it's powerful and weak. I think we can say about the same thing about cinema. I mean, I don't know. You watch a movie, and each moment feel like, I mean, in a great movie, each moment feel like a whole life. And at the same time, you understand to which extent this experience was maybe limited for you, and others remain totally indifferent to it. And you know, I think that I'm also already a part of a generation of filmmakers that feel not only the power of cinema but also its fragility.
That's interesting, because how does that make you and the people in front of your camera different than the wedding photographer and the newlywed couples that are in front of the camera? It's basically the same dynamic.
Totally. You're right. And I think that this fragility sometimes fills my cinema with violence and despair, because I mean sometimes you want to shake spectators only in order to make them open their eyes, and yet you feel that all of this is I don't know, advancing towards the threshold of history or something like this. So and maybe the beginning of the kindergarten teacher is a good example to this violence and despair.
Are we going to take a look?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the Zoom screen share didn't really capture this essence of the quality of the image in the beginning of the scene. But for everybody that hasn't seen it yet, I can kind of describe the experience as that it immediately makes you incredibly aware of the fact that the camera is there, and that you are, as an audience, part of this filmic construction as well. I mean, you see the guy sitting at the couch and he leans back, and just the image is already trembling. You feel so close and at the same time very removed from what's going on.
And he's banging the camera. I mean,
yes.
he's hitting twice the camera. I mean, he's hitting for the first time, so I think the people think that maybe it was a mistake or something. I mean, they say like the poor director, he didn't see that the guy was hitting the camera, but then he hit another time the camera, so they said, okay, maybe it's not a mistake. But yeah, I think so. So you know, for me, for instance, in this movie, this thing of hitting the camera, I think it's following all sorts of things that we were talking about, like this necessity to shake, to in order to save the moment, in order to sanctify the moment, in order to sanctify the moment even from the plot of the movie, in order to but it's also I mean, the kindergarten teacher is a film about a person, the kindergarten teacher, who's who's going to war against what most of the people would call normal life. I mean, and what is normal life? Normal life is a man lying on a couch and looking at a pretty silly but okay TV show, for instance. And what we would call normality, I mean, she goes to a crusade against it in the name of poetry, etc., etc. So for me, you know, it's also the idea that the camera is shaking. It's as if the camera also cannot, for a second, cannot tolerate this normality. Like the camera is declaring, in a way, in each time when a man would have, or a woman, yeah, would have lied on a couch and would have watched a silly but okay TV show, there should have been an earthquake. The world should have trembled. It's impossible that we relate to this assassination of the soul as normality.
There's a beautiful question here in the Q&A, or it's more like a comment. It's from Attila Godri. I really like that he puts the camera in danger, which I think is a great description as well.
You know, it's funny. When I was in film school, my like in film school, all the time they talk to you. I mean, they explain how expensive is the equipment and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So my hobby when I was alone was to push cameras and to save them and the last second before they crash. And actually I admit that at least twice I didn't manage to save them, and they were breaking, and it became an extremely expensive thing. But in a way, yes, I mean, it's true. I always feel that there's something extremely artificial in this idea that in a lot of movies, maybe most of the movies, terrible or marvelous things are happening to the characters, and the camera remains saved and objective and indifferent. I mean, for me, it's always strange to see an actor, I don't know, crying or being killed or being hit or making sex or having an unbelievable love story, an unbelievable orgasm, or I don't know what. And the camera is you know, is observing all of this with a kind of indifference. Like the actors are agitated and the camera is so I like the idea that the camera is also involved, and being involved, it becomes also unprotected. I mean, the moment the camera is a character, so like each character, it can be hit, it can suffer, it can cry, it can collapse, it can die. Like my DP, my cameraman, is always saying that the next stage will be when the actor will not only will hit the camera, but will hit also the cameraman. But yeah, so.
Do you ever think about this analogy or this comparison between being a filmmaker and your time that you had to be in the army as a young Israeli man? Because I was just thinking about this with camera equipment, of course, is very expensive. It's an expensive tool to shoot people, right? Do you ever think about this strange analogy that you are also given all these expensive equipment in a totally different context that's also about this fragile relationship between the ordinary and the extraordinary?
Well, I guess it's a good analogy. I must say that also in the army, I had this hobby of almost crashing very expensive equipment. But this is something that I don't regret. I mean, when it was going, it was for the best. But I think that this love and hate relationship with the tool was something that I felt already in the army, because being a young man and young Israeli man, although I grew up in a very, I mean, kind of leftist bohemian family. When I was 18 years old, my only desire was to be a hero. I mean, looking backward, I think, you know, I was like always in Western. You have this the old cowboy, the experienced one, who understands that all of this is terrible. And you have the young cowboy who is eager to have adventures, to fight, to kill, because he feel in a way that he haven't really lived till he didn't kill someone. So I myself, like a lot of, maybe the majority of men here and maybe around the world, I was reacting to this desire. I was full with desire to yeah, I wanted to be a hero. I wanted to be a cowboy when I was in the army, which made me, in a terrible way, a very good soldier. So I think that, yeah, I think that this desire for the tool, knowing also its horrifying potential, maybe it's something that is really in common.
And it's also a little bit the physicality, because a lot of directors have a very detached relationship with the camera, as you described. And I think that even from this Zoom snippet, I think everybody that's listening and watching at home has a pretty good sense of how physical you can use the camera in your work.
Totally. And I think, it's also, I mean, the moment that you make a physical cinema, I mean, again, it's strange to make only a physical cinema, but ignoring the physicality of the camera.
And where does the editing come into play here? Because I know that you collaborate with your mother as your editor often, right?
Yes. I think in a way, for me, the editing is the moment that I'm slapping my own rashes. I mean, because usually, I mean, pretty often I make like pretty complex shots and all sorts of sequence shots, etc., or all sort of experiences and experiments on set, and everyone, including myself, are very happy, and there is a kind of euphoria in the end of the shooting, and then you have to refine the true essence of things. And there's something in the editing that is it's finding a new satisfaction. It's like it's finding a new satisfaction, a new joy for the movie, which is more mature. There's something in the shooting. There's something very childish when you're shooting. It's great. I mean, I think you should be like a child when you shoot. Then you get old and you die in the premiere. No, but I mean the editing. There's something about experiencing the same thing, but with more maturity.
It's like the beginning of Synonyms. Our main character dies one time and gets a rebirth. That's maybe the editing.
Exactly.
Well, maybe that also slowly brings us to Policeman, your feature film debut from 2011, which also reflects a little bit about military life. Not only this film, by the way, I think many of your films do in one way or another, but this one maybe most explicitly. And I think it's also an interesting film to talk about the idea of beginnings, where we also started our talk, since the film has explicitly two beginnings in itself as well, in the story at least. So maybe we could watch a clip and then talk a little bit about that, and also maybe the role of editing. There's many things to unpack with this film too. Do you want to set a scene, or?
I mean, maybe we can see the first scene of Policeman, so we don't have to explain anything.
No, all right, let's watch it. Can you set it up, Sona? Okay, I think we're back. The screen share, we're lucky that we didn't have this choppy quality at the beginning with synonyms. But maybe, Nadav, it's good to maybe set the scene a little bit more ourselves, because this doesn't really, I think everybody saw the same choppy frame rate. Could you maybe talk us a little bit about through the beginning of this film and talk a little bit about what we're trying to establish here?
I think, yeah, it's yeah, I mean, it's a pity, of course, that we can't watch it, because now actually I'm describing what we were supposed to watch, but already there's something I mean, the title of the movie is Policeman, singular. But in the movie we see. I think the whole movie deals with the question of whether people can go beyond themselves or beyond the role they were determined to. And we begin with a group of policemen. They are riding on their bikes, and they are a little bit. They are in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the desert, and you have the feeling that they are a little bit the new kings of the desert. I mean, the land belongs to them, and they get closer to the camera. And in a way, there's something in this beginning that tells you it can be each one of these policemen. I mean, the hero of the movie, the title of the movie, the hero of the movie can be each one of these policemen, because they are the same. They are all of them strong, tall, muscular, beautiful, simple. They love their country. They hate all the other. They are loyal to their friends and dangerous to their enemies, etc. But then one of them is starting to get closer and closer to the camera, and the camera is backing and is getting closer, and you feel that in a way, by getting close to the camera, he becomes the chosen one. I mean, in a way, during this shot, I think you see already this initial question is to which extent we are prisoners of our title, policeman, kindergarten teacher, and to which extent we can even for a slight second, as it happens in the last second of the movie, we can look beyond. The question is already raised and in a way answered, in a way that this bicycle rider, this policeman is getting close to the camera, and he's choosing the camera, and the camera is choosing him, and this is the beginning of a movie.
It's interesting because later in the film, I mean, there's the whole story about this singular policeman is that he and his partner, she's pregnant of their child, and he's soon to be dead, which seems like a very exceptional story. It's a unique, transformative moment. And at the same time, later we see him at a party with other policemen, with his friends, and almost everybody already has a child. So also there's nothing truly exceptional about it. And it's interesting that it's about this, that there's many experiences in life that seem very unique to yourself, but are maybe very common to the human experience, I guess.
Yes, because I'm also, I think I'm trying to either to go with I mean, to dig deep inside simple or common things, and not start to invent an extremely. I'm not a very good script writer. I mean good or bad, I don't know, but I'm not a very sophisticated script writer. I mean, I like that scripts are going from A to B, from B to C, from C to D, and they end in D. And I don't like when scripts are going from A to B, from B to Z, from Z to A, back to A. And I mean, so there's something about going with the simplicity of things. When you dig inside it, it's as we know, it's terrible and beautiful. And if there's something complex, to try to show it in the most direct and frontal way. So yes, so I mean, his wife is pregnant. It's not a big thing. I'm sure that there are a lot of pregnant wives on Earth at this moment. Maybe even some of them are watching us. So it's not a big thing. But of course that it's going to shake his basic essence.
There's one question I want to ask, and then I'll get to a question that's asked in the Q&A function of Zoom from Attila. I'll get to that in a second. And it's another reminder to everybody that's still listening. Feel free to join with more questions as well. I think we're slowly getting to that moment. But just after the part that we just now saw in the screen share of policemen, there's a moment where our policeman turns on the radio or like puts in a CD for a second and just goes absolutely crazy on this one song, like singing along with it, dancing very vulgarly to his, I presume, wife or girlfriend or partner. And it's this very transformative moment because it's also takes something that's very, I mean, in a way banal. Everybody sometimes enjoys music, but it's also very exceptional and unique at the same time. And it reminds me of the scene in Synonyms with the bread, this transformative dance scene. There's also a scene in the kindergarten teacher where we have this beautiful scene in a club or in a pub with some music and a dance floor. And I'm just wondering about this song and dance and joy and pleasure, like how you use those things in your films, because it's quite unique. It's very distinctly yours, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, when people watch my movies, they think that I'm a kind of John Travolta or so. I mean, they imagine that they're usually disappointed when they go, I don't know, clubbing with me, and they find out that I'm an okay dancer, but not more than this, because the dance is extremely important in my movies. I think that it's two things in the same time. On one hand, or maybe the first one is that for me, people, the dancing scenes are scenes when people are dancing themselves. They dance who they are. In a way, they declare themselves. They declare their existence to others, to themselves, to the camera, to the spectators. They come to the camera and they say, look at us. This is what we are, and then they dance it. I mean, the second thing is that I mean, I there's something in it's not that you shouldn't be too serious, but pretty often you see very strict films and very heavy films that in a way they confuse, I think, their strictness with intelligence, and I think that for me, as someone who's trying really to capture the experience of living, a part of this living is the crazy joy. I mean, and this crazy joy is also, it's crazy in a real way, not only crazy as an experience as you saw at the end of Synonyms, when the guy is laughing like crazy. I mean, there's something crazy about being so joyful, but when you dance, I mean, we all know that when we dance, we only suddenly only pleasure exists.
It sets you free, and it seems to set you free of the boundaries of the film world as well, dancing.
Totally.
So there's a good question from Attila in the Q&As section. I'm just gonna read aloud the whole question because it's quite good. Do Nadav likes to confuse the audience? I'm meaning that a lot of time in his films, the audience is having some preconception about what will happen, and then he'll prove that it will happen different. I think, and this is my addition to the policeman, where we first follow the policeman, and then somebody else who will later have a run-in with this policeman is a very interesting example of that as well.
Yeah, so maybe I'll try to separate my answer to two. I mean, I think that, I mean, yeah, I like to confuse the audience, but as I said, I feel that for me, in a way, the best spectator is a lost spectator, and yet a spectator who doesn't know exactly what he's supposed to feel, but feels something all the time. But so yes, but I think that I'm not confusing the spectators like, in all sorts of crazy turning points, and you think that this is going to happen, but suddenly something totally opposite is happening, and you can believe it. You thought that they are friends, but you discover that they are enemies, etc. No, it's not this kind of surprises. I mean, in a way, on the contrary, everything is advancing more or less in the direction that you could have predicted. But the surprise is in the not what's happening in the scenes, but how the scenes look like. Not only cinematically, but also not only the camera movements or the mise en scène, but also the fact that you feel that, although you understand the content of the scene, but the film has a different relation to the scene. It's as if, okay, in the scene you see A, B, C, D, E, but actually you see totally different thing. I think you're surprised because you're surprised by the confusion, the surprise are touching the importance and the essence of things, and not what's happening, but 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 what's really happening.
How do you relate that to Policeman, where you basically have one film playing at the beginning, of which we saw the beginning, and then a second one seems to kick in?
So I think that in a way, also my luck is that from the beginning I didn't read too much script writing manuals. So things happened to me. I mean, I remember, when I made Policeman, I told myself, okay, I want to talk about these anti-terrorist policemen, and then I want to talk about radicals, and then I want to talk about both of them. So when I'm telling you this sentence, what's happening? I'm saying first policeman, and then I'm not saying all the time. I'm not doing a parallel edit of both. So I wrote the script like this. I said, okay, first of all, I write about these guys, then I write about these guys, then they'll meet. Then when I started to send the script to film fans, I mean, I was at the beginning surprised from the radical reactions. Like people say, you don't do such things in movie. It's not logical. You can't talk about a main protagonist for about 40 minutes and then to abandon it for 40 minutes. Well, of course, first of all, when someone tells you that you can't do something, this is the best argument why to do it. But but also, for me, it looked like the most natural way of talking about something. At the end, I think when I examine these decisions of making like 3 parts movie, but not following this parallel editing convention, is I think it's also subjected to the fact that in a way, Policeman is a film about people who live more or less in the same spaces, in the same country, in the same cities, can cross paths, but are totally unable to connect. I mean, there's no, even when they talk the same language, they talk totally different, the words have totally different meaning. And in a way, I think there's something powerful about the idea that even in the editing room, where you can do the biggest magic, you can't create a valid cut that will put together these two entities. They are so, it's like, I don't know, fire and sea, all this. They are so opposed that even in the editing room, you can't mix them. You have to talk about this and talk about the others.
It's like two information bubbles that never really meet.
Totally.
So I'm just going to invite everybody that's still in the panel to raise your questions now. If we don't have that much questions coming in, I think we should slowly wrap up because we're already 30 minutes over time. I'm also looking to Sona respectfully if we still are allowed to have some questions come in.
I can't see any questions here. I will also check on our Facebook to see if there is any questions, not to miss
Okay,
anything.
cool. Well, then in the meantime, have one question that I think we almost touched upon, but it's something that I do want to hear from you. It's about this idea of youth, which is also, we were talking about very fleeting experiences in life that you can capture through film. But I think that many of your films are also about the experience and joy of being young. I think it's in Policeman a little bit almost that the policeman is slowly realizing that he's not young anymore. But I think that in many other films, it's very much about being confronted with the possibilities and limitations of being young. Can you talk a little bit about capturing that in film?
Yeah, I think that I mean, I think that in a way cinema is ideal for young people, because a little bit like young people, it has no history. It has no perspectives. It doesn't take anything, in proportions. There's something, all these ideas of treating each moment as if it's the first moment in the world, treating each experience as if it's the first time that you see the first time that you kiss, or the first time that you see the moon, or the first time that you walk on the sidewalk. I think that it goes very well with being young.
Then maybe if there's still not really questions coming in, then I have a final question, and I think we can leave it at that, because we've been talking a lot about beginnings, and you've showed us beginnings of 4 of your big films. Now maybe it's a good question to talk about endings, and how do you treat those, because that's an entirely different trick in itself, or skill.
Yeah, so I must admit that almost in all my movies, the last scene was cut in the editing. I'm always like writing a very, and usually it's a very pompous last scene. I'm very often writing like a very ceremonial, very pompous last scene, and we shoot it, and everyone on the set afterwards is moved, and And then when we go to the editing room, we understand that it's better to leave this ending for the imaginary of the spectator. So we cut just before, and suddenly it's much stronger.
It's like the wedding photography.
Exactly.
Well, Nadav Lapid, I think that's a beautiful way to maybe conclude this very interesting talk. Thank you so much for making time. Thank you so much for all your great insights in your work, for sharing, literally showing your work today. Wish you many, all the best luck with finishing your film. And of course, we hope to see it soon, hopefully Sona at the Golden Apricots International Film Festival. For everybody that's still with us, thank you so much for joining, for listening, also for asking questions. And we wish you a great continuation of the film festival, Golden Apricots International Film Festival in Yerevan. That's it for now. Wish you a beautiful day.
Thanks a lot, and for the next year in Yerevan, I hope.
Yes, we will wait for both of you. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks all of you. Bye-bye.